I talk a lot about Sony forcing developers to censor their games or else they can't be sold on the PlayStation storefront. Every freaking week it seems like Sony's doing something to piss off consumers or to upset developers, and of course, to no one's surprise, Sony is forcing censorship on yet another game. Unfortunately, the new release of Doki Doki Literature Club has been censored, and the developers that have been backed into a corner by Sony are trying to play it off like it's not a big deal. They're saying, oh, well, we didn't remove any content from the game, so you all have nothing to worry about. So I'm going to be starting off with a Bounding into Comics article. PlayStation release of Doki Doki Literature Club censors iconic scene in order to comply with Sony content regulations. But before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter, Minds, or even join our Discord server so that you can see when my content is posted. And if you really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So it says Doki Doki Literature Club creator Dan Salvato has revealed that one of the indie visual novel's most iconic scenes was censored in the recent PlayStation 4 release of the title's expanded edition in order to comply with Sony's content regulations. We've definitely seen an attack on fan service and an attack on anime-styled games, so of course it's no surprise that Sony is now attacking one of the most popular visual novels there is. I mean, Doki Doki Literature Club is extremely popular. It says Salvato revealed the censorship the same day that Doki Doki Literature Club Plus released digitally for PC and consoles in a post shared to the official Team Salvato blog aptly titled About Censorship. In the post, he addressed fan concerns that based on the game's content, DDLC might have certain parts of the game censored or otherwise altered in order to comply with the respective regulations on each platform, and of course, Sony is the #1 contender here that forces developers to censor their games. It is really unfortunate. I personally used to be a huge Sony fangirl, but over the years, they've definitely changed. They don't allow specific content on their platforms anymore. They're really inconsistent with how they apply their censorship rules, even though we basically know that they don't have any. But it says we feel confident in the nuance of DDLC's content, but we also know that certain platforms might have regulations that we wouldn't expect to be an exception to. Of course, here he is referencing Sony. We know that platforms like Nintendo, they don't really force a ton of censorship on games anymore. They actually used to be much worse than Sony, but now it's the other way around. Nintendo allows a lot on the eShop, and Sony doesn't really allow any anime or fan service style content without it being scrutinized by their review teams. So it says the indie creator then assured fans that he had already decided long ago that if I was required to remove specific scenes from DDLC in order to publish it to a platform, then I would not publish it on that platform, and stated that as such, fans should rest easy knowing that no scenes have been removed from the title's console release. However, this assurance that no scenes had been removed was not to say that it had not been altered in some instances, as he proceeded to reveal that the PlayStation version of the game had some visual changes to one of the scenes. This creator goes on about how he'd never publish a game on a platform if the team was forced to remove content, yet he's willing to alter things to get the game published on another platform. And yeah, I completely understand that they're a company and they want to make money. Having your game on the PlayStation storefront is a big deal because it's more chances to sell copies of your game, but censorship isn't just about removing parts of something completely, it's also about altering things, and that's what they're doing here. They are censoring this game. They are altering scenes to comply with Sony's made-up censorship rules. A lot of people really do love Doki Doki Literature Club, and luckily this is coming to multiple other platforms. You can get this on Nintendo, also the PlayStation if you really want a censored version of the game. It is also going to PC, so there are multiple ways to purchase this, and there are going to be versions of the game that are not censored, so I would highly recommend, if you want to support this game, do not buy the PlayStation 4 version, but it is censored, and even though they're trying to say, don't worry guys, we didn't remove anything, they're still altering things to comply with Sony's rules. Scrolling down, it says, according to Salvato, the censored scene in question is one which occurs towards the end of Act 2 in the classroom just before the weekend starts, when Yuri confesses her love to the protagonist. In this scene, regardless of whether or not the player chooses to reciprocate or reject her feelings, the purple-haired member of the literature club will proceed to violently stab herself to death, eventually allowing herself to bleed out on the floor of the club's meeting room. Oh, just a reminder, everyone, the sex scenes and gore in The Last of Us Part 2 were all just fine, but this, no, this is unacceptable to Sony. I hate how they do this. It's not like their rules are across the board for everyone. First-party developers can do whatever the hell they want and never be forced to censor content, yet third-party developers are chop freaking liver. It's so unfortunate to see what indie developers and just third-party developers have to go through with Sony. Now, while this change was made in order to comply with Sony's policy, Salvato asserted that he had at least designed the changes myself, and thus felt confident in them because I don't consider the psychological effect of this scene to have been diminished in any way, and I wouldn't have accepted that kind of compromise. I mean, every developer that's forced to censor their game has to do it themselves. It's not like Sony has a team of developers that says, yeah, we're gonna redesign this scene for free for you. Of course, you have to design it yourself, and I'm sure that they had to resubmit it and Sony still could have rejected it. It says basically the change is not a big deal. I just wanted to make everyone aware of it in advance because I know that DDLC fans will notice it as a difference from the original game, and I wanted to avoid a scenario where people would spot the difference and think the game was unfairly tampered with by some company. Now, I do still have a lot of respect for these developers because Doki Doki Literature Club is really popular. A lot of people do really love it, but they're trying to basically say, guys, it's not censorship, don't worry, even though they are censoring the game. I bet that Sony tells these devs, if you mention censorship, you're banned from our storefront outright, because multiple times now we've seen developers use strategic terms like this. We've made changes, but guys, it's not censorship. And I want to head over to a Niche Gamer article really quickly, just to show you all statements that Sony put out back in 2018. Sony does censor a lot on their platform now. Sexual themes, fan service. This is a running trend, and I have talked about it a lot here on the channel. But it says, Sony Japan president, new censorship policies on sexual themes are to meet global standards. And in this case, it wasn't sexual themes or anything, but we do know that Sony has a history of forcing developers to censor content. It says, following weeks of silence on the new worldwide policy restricting certain themes on PlayStation consoles, Sony has finally publicly commented on the matter. So during a fan-focused event in Japan, fans could ask key staff various questions, and a fan asked the Japan Asia president what's going on with their new policy on sexual themes in games, and how they could balance freedom of expression and non-kid-friendly games. About the censorship, we tried to meet global standards, they said. Regarding the balance of the freedom of expression and safety for children, it's a tough problem to deal with. Of course, we've seen so many companies try to chase global standards. Oh no, we can't have adult-focused content anymore because we want to chase those global freaking standards. What a terrible excuse. It says this new policy from Sony is very real and has been affecting mostly Japanese games, both internationally and within Japan. So it finishes off with saying publisher P-Cube canceled the Western release for Omega Labyrinth Z, and Marvelous to remove a reoccurring feature in Senran Kagura Renewal. And most recently, Marvelous boss talked about policies that are prolonging their development time as they're trying to work with them. This is just such an unfortunate situation to hear about because so many people do really like Doki Doki Literature Club, and unfortunately, one scene is censored in it now. We don't know if anything else is going to be censored. Luckily, the creator of it did come forward and admit, hey, we did change something for Sony's platforms. It's not going to be on the other versions of the games, but it is still something people have to deal with. Like I always say, if you're trying to purchase anime games or visual novels, don't purchase them on a Sony platform because usually they're censored in some way, shape, or form. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way. But I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.